What's up everybody, it's Robin Gaming here. So Uncharted 4 Thieves End has now been out for about 2 weeks in total. We've all been really looking forward to the game. It was one of those, biggest, most anticipated upcoming PS4 games, especially being an exclusive, right? It's probably the biggest one out of them all that people were looking forward to. It has been out now for 2 weeks, and because it's such a great game, it's no surprise that the game is actually also really sold very well, which Sony today announced that the game has sold 2.7 million copies in its very first week. It's a very impressive number with about 40 million PS4s being out into the wild right now. This number is only going to keep growing and growing, and I think so far what we can say is definitely that these numbers are very impressive. But at the same time, to kind of give you an idea, I thought I would sort of like compare it to other games in this series and also maybe to some other games out right now, to sort of give you an overview of how well is it actually selling compared to those. So let's take for example the previous Uncharted games in this series, right? Uncharted 2, which was of course at a point where Uncharted wasn't really that big yet. Uncharted 2 sold 500,000 copies in North America in its first month, while doing pretty much 1 million in overall sales worldwide, pretty much, right? So yeah, 2.7 compared to, and that was in 1 million was in 1 month, and there's 2.7 million for Uncharted 4 is in 1 week. So quite a massive difference there. Then we have Uncharted 3, and there's nothing really concrete for that. Sony hasn't really announced that, because what they announced on day one when Uncharted 3 came out back in 2011 was the fact that it shipped 3.8 million copies. At that point you can really see that the franchise had already grown quite a bit, right? And yeah, 3.8 million copies, but those are shipped, so it's not really comparable to 2.7 million sold, because what shipped means is that they were pretty much sent out to retailers, to stores to sell to customers, but doesn't mean they were all necessarily sold, and therefore it's really hard to tell if Uncharted 4, in its first week sold better than 3 or not. I think it's probably on a pretty even level. At the same time, what you do gotta keep in mind is that now with the PS4, there's only like 40 million PS4s out there, while when Uncharted 3 released, there were like 60 or 70 million PS3s, I'm pretty sure. So the install base was just, much bigger that time around. But yeah, in general, all 3 Uncharted games have sold around 7 million units, which was, throughout all the months that it kept selling in the years, basically, because, as I said, Uncharted 2 started off with 1 million in its first month, but it ended up at around 7 million, so still quite a big jump there. And I really predict that Uncharted 4 is probably going to be the best-selling Uncharted game in the series, so it's going to be very interesting to see what Sony will do with that, with those numbers. Is the series going to be continued, with different characters or stuff, or with a different storyline? Yeah, very interesting, and we're gonna have to wait and see for that. So if that happens, of course, it's gonna be a different developer doing it, obviously, because Naughty Dog has now said goodbye, which is a shame, but at the same time, it's kind of understandable, and I'm glad it went out with a bang and stuff. And yeah, it's just gonna be super interesting to see if a different developer will eventually make a new Uncharted game, maybe in like 5 or 10 years. We'll see. But I don't really want to get into the whole console war, stuff, because I honestly, really don't like that too much. But if we're talking about sales, a lot of people will be comparing, PlayStation 4's biggest game to like the big exclusives on Xbox, obviously. What we know is that Halo 5 sold it pretty much sold for $400 million on launch, which was like the first month, I'm pretty sure. But at the same time, 400 million, that includes also console bundles. So when Halo 5 was being sold with a console bundle for around $350 or $400, that would count towards that 400 million total price point. So yeah, it's kind of hard to tell how much that sold. According to the NPD, which is this this company that really does research into sales, Halo 5 sold 1 million units in its first month of release, but that excludes digital sales. So there also we don't really know how much it exactly was, but it seems like Uncharted 4 has actually sold more than Halo 5, although at first it might not seem like that. If you really think about the 400 million as in that also counts console bundles, then in that way Uncharted 4 has probably sold a little more than Halo 5, but we don't really know. Rise of the Tomb Raider, for example, sold over 1 million units after 2 months by the end of 2015. So just 1 million in like 2 months, whereas Uncharted 4 now almost 3 million in its first week. Quite a big difference. And then we have Quantum Break, which very recently came out, and there Microsoft is just being really vague about it. With this term of $400 million for Halo 5, what does that really mean? How many copies is that sold? They are not telling us that at all. And with Quantum Break now, it's like what they said about it is it's the fastest selling Microsoft published new IP this console gen. generation. Like, it's so many different factors that could bring the sales down a bit that it's really hard to tell how much that game has sold, but I'm pretty sure it didn't really sell that well. So Uncharted 4 is absolutely killing it right now, even compared to the big games on Xbox. Of course, the install base is bigger for the PS4, so it's no surprise there really. But at the same time, yeah, it's good to see that the franchise has really reached its kind of like peak now, and it's gonna be super interesting to see where exactly it's gonna go. Is a different developer gonna make an Uncharted game eventually because Sony sees how well it sells, or are they gonna simply leave it at this and let Naughty Dog continue with different games like The Last of Us 2, like new IPs? Yeah, and just kind of like leave the series to have a good rest now, you know, basically after 4 amazing games. So yeah, you know, I'm just super excited to see what exactly is going to happen with that, but it's very good to see that the game is selling so well, because if one thing is for sure, then that's the fact that it really deserves it, right? So with that being said, that was the video for today. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope to see you again next time.